These celebrities almost completely ruined their lives because of corn addiction. That's right, genetically modified. No, not that kind of corn, okay. Terry Crews, Billie Eilish, Chris Rock. We're going to look at all three of their different stories. And then I'm going to get into one scriptural principle on why this is so pervasive. And it may not be what you think, so be sure to stay till the very end. Now, before we get into that, guys, as you guys know, I've been very transparent about this. I was exposed to pornography very young. 5 years old was the very first time I saw it, 5 or 6. I then experienced SA as a kid, which then led to more corn abuse, which followed me well into my adult years and even into my marriage. Yes, that's right. Getting married didn't fix all my sexual deviancy, unfortunately. And so this is something that's like near and dear, and helping people find freedom in this area is near and dear to my heart. And I hope that the application point of where we land today will be something that is hopefully helpful for those of you guys that may be struggling with it. And I have a free resource at the very end, and it's like a real free resource. Like, it's not like a PDF for like a chart or something. Like, it's like a real thing. So just wait till the end, okay? So this is Terry Crews. If you guys don't know who Terry Crews is, he is an actor. He's been in a ton of big movies.
Host of America's Got Talent.
America's Got Talent. And so he opens up about his struggles with this in this clip here.
Was in Vancouver like 10 years earlier than that phone call. So I just started in 2000, and I was nervous and scared, and the way I always dealt with that was, and what was crazy is that, I spent my time in Vancouver, and it wasn't enough, because that's the thing. You get that, you put that in your life, all of a sudden, you begin to act things out.
Right.
And I told myself I was getting a massage, the whole thing. And I ended up with a masseuse, and cheated on my wife for the first time. And I said,
which,
okay.
By the way, thankfully, I've never gotten a massage from a masseuse ever, but this is not uncommon. Folks with means who have this sort of dysfunction, that then it starts with this, and then it moves into, I'm gonna go get a massage, and then I'm gonna go to a sketchy massage place, and then like before you know it, you're full on paying sex workers.
Ugh.
Right? I know several. Unfortunately, I know several. Well, this is Ravi Zacharias' thing. He ended up going on to own the daggone masseuse parlors.
Yeah.
Talk about a bit overindulgent. But I know several Christian people that have unfortunately done this, and I know folks that have went innocently into a massage parlor. They were on vacation, popped out, and then was offered.
Yeah,
like,
I know someone that got diddled and was like, psh, he slapped her hand. I was like, what are you doing?
That's a good man right there. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go to my grave with this. Like, I don't believe I crossed this line, but I will never tell. Like, again, a lot of the things that I'd already done, I said, I'm gonna be private, but this one was like, holy cow, I crossed this line. And what was wild is that my wife was always suspicious.
Yeah.
And I'd start arguments to basically get out of it. Like, what do you mean? There's ways I knew to be very manipulative in order to not be questioned anymore. Start arguments, and she's like, fine, whatever, I'm all right, what, and so I held it as my secret, and I kept it secret. And then I'll never forget, because what happens though, every time something like that happens, and every time you use I got one step away from my marriage, more and more. It was like putting a brick.
Yeah.
It's like, again, I would really compare it to any other, if you're using, every time you do, you're one step away from the people who love you.
Yeah.
Every drink puts you one step away from those who love you.
Such an accurate depiction, man, because it really is. And they say what it does to your brain and how addictive it is like, like that's, gosh, go ahead.
And for me, it was the same thing with porn. And I said, and we were just getting farther and farther apart. Like, I couldn't see us being married to this spot. Like, it was just, when is it going to happen? Not if, it's just when.
Yeah.
And dude, we were arguing on the phone, and I'll never forget, there was a moment when I was just tired. I was just like, I knew who I was, because I knew, you're lying.
You live with it.
See, the question is the question I used to always ask, which was crazy, is that I would go, why doesn't she believe me? And I always put it on her. Like, why don't you believe me? But everything changed when the question became, why am I lying? That's a whole different perspective.
By the
No,
way,
it's me.
that's a pretty interesting place to be, where you're like, why doesn't she believe my lies?
It's like you've drank the Kool-Aid of your own
You're
delusion.
You know,
Yeah.
And I was looking at her like, it was you know, you should be. It was great because you could always blame and push, and there was that moment on the call when I was like, am I thinking up another lie? And I said, I can't. I'm done thinking up lies. Like there was not another lie to think up.
Yeah.
And she kept questioning me, and she was like, something. She said, and I'll never forget. She said, "What is it I don't know about you, Terry Crews?" Whew. Like she went right there. It was the perfect question. Because it was either I'm going to lie about this or I'm going to tell the truth. And I told her about what happened in Vancouver. This is what you don't know about me. And I thought, and it was so weird, as I thought, see, we cool now. You got to understand, like that's how deluded you could be. Because I'm like, that was a long time ago. She was like, but for her, it happened 30 seconds ago. And she was like, I'm out. I'm done. I was like, what are you talking about? Because I feel like, but another thing, I could manipulate you by the money, the life. But my wife didn't care about that.
So
Jeez, man.
they go on and they actually restore his marriage. He goes to rehab. They do this whole 9. It's actually like a really cool story. And he like speaks out against porn addiction, but it doesn't stop there.
Yeah. Shout out to Terry Crews for fighting for his marriage and you know, not giving up, because that's hard. Chris Rock.
I was addicted to porn. I know, $1 billion industry, just me, right? I was addicted to, I was 15 minutes late everywhere. I got some witnesses. And when you watch too much, you know what happens? Here's what happens. You become like sexually autistic.
Hold on. That's funny, because he since came out and said that he is
Autistic.
So it's him like
Sexually autistic. He's just autistic.
he's just autistic, bro.
Like
So is he like
autism.
prophesying this about himself?
Love it.
You develop like sexual autism. You have a hard time with eye contact and verbal cues. You want everything to be routine. Like you can't choke your woman every night.
Jeez.
You gotta mix it up. Choke out Thursdays.
Darkness.
But he's hitting a kind of an interesting point here, which is the hypersexualization leads to a fantasy idea of reality.
In
his
a
own way.
perverted idea of
Exactly.
reality.
Exactly. A fake fantasy of what some people might consider.
And what happens to you watch too much, you get desensitized, you know? So when you start watching porn, it's like any porn will do. Oh, they're naked. Ooh. Then later on, now you all up. And you need a perfect porn cocktail to get you off. You know? I was so fucked up. Like, I need an Asian girl with a black girl that speaks Spanish.
This
is dark.
This is dark.
But
this is dark. Zach sourced these clips, by the way.
I sourced these clips, but this is the only time I could hear him talking about the addiction. But what do we see with extreme corn addiction turning people tea? We've explored that topic before, where this desire gets perverted, where it needs to keep going and get more and more and more and more and more perverted.
Yeah.
That they start watching tea corn.
Yeah.
And then they start believing their tea themselves.
Darkness.
Ugh,
Yeah,
so that's enough for
listen,
that one.
I'm gonna say this, and this is not me saying that like my corn addiction, like I never got into like that's some dark.
That's dark.
That's dark. That's some really dark, like, yeah. And so the cocktail bit, that was funny, but I've never man. So there's levels to this.
There's levels to it, but
There's levels
it's
to it.
not
But
it's not true. But I mean, even if it never, like for the average person, maybe it never got super dark.
Yeah.
It definitely went from like, oh, IG models to like now I actually got to see naked women to like now I actually got to see
graphic
sex.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's in terms of Billie Eilish. Like that's exactly what happened. Is she started watching stuff that wasn't just naked people. Like it was completely degrading.
Ugh.
And just completely dark. And so she opens up about this clip. And then after this, I'm going to tell you guys, I think, the root of this issue. And then we're going to give you guys a free resource that you may not know that's available to. Go ahead.
As a woman, I think is a disgrace. And I used to watch a lot, to be honest. I started watching when I was like 11. I thought that's how you learned how to have sex. I was watching abusive
That's
porn.
heartbreaking, man. My son is 9.
Ugh.
My son is 9, and she says I was watching abusive. So the fact that she saw this stuff at 11, and that she thought this is how you learn, and that this is the stuff that it's so sad, because it's like,
Be honest.
they say the average person views it like before they're 13.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before the age of 13. So like, the people that are participating in this and making it, there's so much cognitive dissonance and just self-delusion.
What did you hear that even PH, the hub, has withdrawn some of their access to services for certain states that require an age verification for each video. So instead of being like, oh, we know that everyone in these videos are of age, they just say, well, we're not going to allow access to our site in those states that require it, because we don't want to have to verify that you're not watching minors as well, which is horrifying.
It's dark, yeah.
You know, when I was like 14, and I, thought I was one of the guys and would talk about it and think I was really cool for not having a problem with it and not seeing why it was bad. And I think it really destroyed my brain. And I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much. I think that I had like sleep paralysis and these like almost like night terror / just nightmares because of it. I think that's how they started, because I would just watch. I couldn't watch.
I mean, talking about catching a demon, right?
If that don't open you up to something.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're watching people that are demonized do stuff over a video, I don't know. That got to do something.
That's not even like pretending to be loving. It's straight like abuse.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. So here's the idea. I don't want to watch anymore because I'm getting
dark.
sick watching this stuff. That got progressively worse. Zach, thanks a lot, bud.
Hey,
I'm about to have sleep paralysis after this freaking video we did.
It's a cascading.
So, okay. So here's the I think the core of the issue. The enemy cannot create. He could only counterfeit. So what is the most crazy thing that he does is not create something. It's that he takes the good things that God created that are intended to allow us incredible amounts of pleasure, and is also the way we survive as a species, which is really interesting that God designed it that way. Like he could have like had us like, I don't know, like how do other animals do it? Like there's like, some animals do it and there's no pleasure in it. It's just like a thing.
Yeah, it's just
do.
like there's a season.
Right.
There's like we need to
season.
make babies season.
He could have done it that way and it not been interesting or desirable, but yet he made it and connected it with this beautiful pleasure that's intended to be experienced between a man and a woman in a covenantal monogamous marriage. What the enemy does is he takes what's God intended for good, and he takes what's good and he makes it God. And that's the core of the issue is many of us have a perversion because the good thing was perverted into the bad thing, right? The good thing was perverted into a God thing, and that God thing now becomes an idol. And so we don't know how to properly process it and have healthy boundaries and context around how it was intended to be experienced. And if you think about most things that you are dealing with, addictions or compulsive behaviors, it's good things that turn into God things, right? People that become alcoholics, people that get addicted to sex, people that get addicted to food. They're good things that become God things, and they're perversions of how things were intended to be. So there is a time and a place to experience all the joys around intimacy, but it's in a covenantal marriage on the other side of lifelong commitment, protected with the possibility that a child can come through the act, and there being a system in place and a structure in place to protect the woman and the child if a child comes into like. So it's like there's a way it's intended to flow and an order to it, yet society takes it and flips it and perverts it. Now, the sad part is that people don't know that God's ways are actually better, that until you've been in a covenantal relationship, there's nothing like the intimacy in that in comparison to anything else that's fake, right? It's like having a home-cooked meal versus getting fast food, right? Like, is the fast food, right? Like, it might give you a short dopamine spike and it might make you feel good in the moment, but the long-term ramifications of consuming that are going to destroy your body, and that's how sexual perversion is, right? So it's interesting that in the scriptures, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, it says to flee from sexual immorality. All of the sins a person commits is against outside, but sexual immorality is against your own body, and your body is the temple of God. So you're committing something against yourself, and it's involving someone else, right? And porn is that too. Like, there's people usually being exploited in some form or fashion on the other side of that video. And so it doesn't say to flee any other sin, which is interesting. And that word sexual immorality is porneia, which of course is where we get our word porn from. And that word porneia is a junctural term that's all encompassing. It doesn't just mean one thing. It doesn't just mean fornication. It means everything. Everything outside of a one man, one woman, a covenantal marriage, it means that. Now, if you guys don't know, I actually have put together a free resource. If you're watching this and you're like, man, that's great for you, Ruslan, like you figure this out, but like I'm still stuck. Okay, I put together a free resource with my Christian therapist, and it's important to know Christian is key in this, and it's called MasterMyHabits.com. It's a completely free course. It's private, and you can go through it, and you will have some form of resource in terms of how to understand what your addictions are, the difference between an addiction and a good habit, how to find steps of freedom, where does confession play in. And it really gives you a streamlined process of beginning the process of healing and restoration and freedom in this area. And this is an area that, like, if you've really dealt with it the way I've dealt with it, like sometimes you may even just need a refresher, because you got to remain hyper vigilant and careful, especially in our society, especially with Instagram and TikTok and movies and all the music, all the craziness. So MasterMyHabits.com. Check it out. It's basically me and my therapist, Dr. Rudy. It's broken into modules. It's completely free. It's private. You can go through it, and I think you'll find a lot of benefit from it. We've had over 10,000 people go through the class. So check it out, all right? And then hopefully that'll get you on the way to get treatment in that area. After the incredible success of our Bless God prayer journal, many of you guys began to ask for something that had a planner. And so we combined our Bless God prayer journal with a brand new leadership planner that jam-packs the same things from our prayer journal with a planner, goal setting, leadership meeting, and notes. With the next pages, you can see different sections right along here of this leadership planner, where you can start out with actionable goals, 12 months of calendar, our original prayer journal prompts, our leadership journal with the proven problem solution framework, and of course, just free write notes. This leadership planner is based off of Matthew 25:14-30, which of course is the parable of the talents. The vision of the planner is to help you make the most of your time, talent, and treasure. Head over to blessgod.shop and get yours today. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.